So it is the start of a new year, but let's just take a step back to talk about the best movies, the top 10 best movies of last year. But one thing I'll quickly mention is not all the movies in this list I got around to making a review for, so I'll just give a quick rating in this video. So let's get into the top 10 movies of this year. So number 10 is Wonder, which was one of them that I didn't get to make a video for. So this movie was an emotional roller coaster. It had moments of sadness, it had moments that were uplifting, and also had some parts in it that were surprisingly humorous. Though I do specifically think one moment it was kind of forced how they did parts of emotion in it that were meant to make you choke up and sad. There was one bit that, yeah, felt very forced. I was kind of saying to myself, did you really need to put that in there? There's also quite a few cliches as well, and it's also a little bit predictable. But all around, I thought the acting was really good, especially from Jacob Tremblay, who played as the main character. Another thing that I also liked is it doesn't completely follow the main character. It actually branches off to his sister and some other characters, and that's what helps make it unique. And I also say this is a really great family movie to watch as well. So if I gave this a rating, I'd give it a 4 out of 5. Number 9 is Mother, which was another movie I didn't get around to reviewing. So when I saw this movie in the theater, I kind of felt like a lot of the people that went in there didn't know what they were walking into. They didn't know it was going to be this mind-bending kind of metaphorical and symbolic movie. So I think a lot of people just walked out of this movie thinking, what the hell did they just watch? In particular, I really felt sorry for this elderly lady as near the end of the movie, there's this disturbing scene, and I honestly thought it was disturbing for me, so I can imagine how she would have felt. And in all honesty, I don't think the movie had to go that far. It was pretty messed up. I get the whole meaning behind it afterwards, after I did a bit of research, but still, it messed me up for a little while. And she actually did say something in that disturbing scene as well. It was something like, who in the hell would make this type of rubbish? So I'm guessing overall she didn't really like it. So I've previously mentioned this in other videos, but I kind of like movies that are a bit metaphorical and symbolic and kind of open for interpretation. One good example of a horror movie is The Wailing. That one was really great for that. So for me, I did find this movie to really stand out this year. And the movie did really stick with me for quite a while, to the point where I actually did some research when I got home trying to figure out certain things. I understood some things about the movie, like what Javier Bardem's character. I kind of had some good suspicions of what he was meant to represent, and I was pretty close to that. But Jennifer Lawrence's character, I was completely lost. I was like, I don't know. But when I did finally find out, I was like, how did I not get that? So to give this movie a rating, I would give it a 4 out of 5. So number 8 is a movie that I did actually get to review, but took forever to actually get released in cinemas in Australia. And that movie was John Wick Chapter 2. This was a really good sequel that was slightly not as good as the first one, but it was still a really, really good action movie. Especially the action scene in the end of the movie involving the mirrors, which just made me sit there wondering how in the hell did they film this scene, I guess with hours and hours of editing afterwards. So number 7 is Dunkirk. Christopher Nolan has given us an intense war film that is not because of the characters, but more towards the situation, sound design, soundtrack, and lastly, the visuals. But at least for me, why it voids from becoming a really intense war film is it just doesn't have a developed character. All that was needed was 5 minutes just to set up our main character a little bit more, and I probably would have given this movie a 5 out of 5. And this would have been definitely higher up on my top 10 list. So number 6 is It. Due to my fear of clowns, this definitely made the spot for the scariest horror movie I've seen this year. And I was really glad with this horror movie that they didn't just give us a scary monster and that's it. No, we got a scary monster and actually some pretty good characters as well. Next up is Baby Driver. Throughout watching a lot of this movie, I ended up just constantly having this stupid grin on my face. It's absolutely brilliant how they were able to integrate the soundtrack into the scenes, and out of all the movies I've seen this year, I think that was one of the funnest theatre experiences I've had this year. Number 4 is Blade Runner. So I made a review for this and I've pretty much said everything I need to say about this movie, but I still stand by my statement that this was one of the best looking films of this year. So number 3 is War for the Planet of the Apes. I particularly loved how they don't focus as much on the humans in this one and more focus a lot more on the apes and more particular Caesar's story. So I still haven't watched all 3 in a row again, but I'm still really looking forward to doing that. Number 2, Only the Brave. I'm saying it right now, this is one of the best disaster movies I've ever seen. What makes this better than other disaster movies is they focus on one particular really important thing. the characters. Though this does result in less disaster havoc type scenes, but this didn't really bother me, as when there were disaster scenes, they were really good, and the fire effects were also quite convincing. But what made these disaster scenes better is these fleshed out characters, which made you really care about them being in danger. The cinematography was surprisingly really good as well. They have a good use of bird's-eye view shots, which helps out the perspective on the firefighting scenes. There's also a great use of wide shots as well. So I'd give Only the Brave a 4.5 out of 5. So now number 1, the best movie of this year, at least in my opinion, Logan. I found most of the superhero films to be good this year, but this one really stood out, not just as a superhero movie, but just as a movie in general. Everyone gave an excellent performance, including the young girl played by Daphne Keane. Having Charles and Logan as older characters helped make it a bit unique, and also effectively added to the darker tone they were going for. I was also glad that they gave this movie an R rating, as we get some really intense and gritty action scenes like this, and it's also what a lot of people have wanted from a Wolverine movie. So that is it for the best movies of 2017. And if you've got a top 10 best movies of 2017 list, feel free to put it down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, consider hitting this button here, or the subscribe button down below, and I'll catch you in the next one.